Hello, everybody. Welcome to the WhatCulture Gaming Podcast. I'm your host, Scott Tilford, joined by Ben Roy Turner.
It's Wednesday.
It is Wednesday, and Josh Brown.
Happy Hump Day. How we
Happy
doing?
Uncharted screenshot thing from the set image of what's coming day, because there's a new still out there for the upcoming Uncharted movie, starring Tom Holland as Nathan Drake and Mark Wahlberg, Marky Mark himself, as Sully. Forget his, I was going to say Sully Erner. That's the dude that sings for Godsmack. It's definitely not him, but he's playing Sully. Does Sully even have a surname? Not that it matters at this point. The point I was going to make is that Mark Wahlberg looks nothing like Sully, and I'm gonna put in that out. What's your initial thoughts on the still from the Uncharted
He looks like Mark Wahlberg. Mark Wahlberg looks like Mark Wahlberg in every single Mark Wahlberg movie. And you know what? I was actually a little bit surprised because a few months ago, he actually did post a little picture somewhere where he had a little mustache and everyone was running with the idea, is this the first look? It's Sully. No, it's not. He doesn't have a mustache in this. He's just Mark Wahlberg. He's just the same as he always is.
I can tell what they're absolutely doing is the standard corporate thing I'm sick of, where we start with a character that doesn't look like what you want, and then he'll get a Hawaiian shirt at some point during the movie. He'll put his little tash on halfway through the movie. Tom Holland will get the ring thing and thread it around. Like they'll get their looks by the end of it. I think that's the way we're gonna go, and I already don't need it. Don't need it in my life. Just saying.
Ben Roy. Come on.
Ben Roy, you alive, mate. You're right, mate.
Mr. Mark.
I just don't see the trouble. I mean, like
the trouble.
He might put a wine shirt on, but Sully's gonna age with time in it. You know, just give him a couple of bottles of whiskey and he'll look fine at the end of it.
Are you pro Mark Wahlberg in the Uncharted movie? Is that what you're saying?
I watched Pain and Gain recently, past few months ago. So yes, I'm pro Mark Wahlberg everything right now.
Oh, I'm pro Mark Wahlberg. That's a separate conversation. I've seen Rockstar. That's an entirely separate thing. But yes.
Yeah, I really don't see the issue with it. Like, I mean, like we've got the Resident Evil movie coming out, and they're casting people that don't look like the character, which is fine as well. And like, why don't we just try and branch out? And Mark Wahlberg is a name who will bring some money for Sony. So you know, whatever happens. But if Mark Wahlberg goes on of his weird Mark Wahlberg rants, then I'm here for Mark Wahlberg. I don't know. I just need to say. I think I said this out. I don't know. It's just. I don't know yet. I need to. I know this movie is going to be like a dumpster going down the hill full of manure, and like, you don't know where it's going to land, like at what point it's going to land. But I mean, I've not got the hopes for it. So just to be like the contrary now, I'm not so.
You sound more hopeful than me and Josh do. I think for me, it's like if I think of a Venn diagram of Sully energy and Mark Wahlberg energy, then that crossover doesn't exist. And so I don't know how. I don't think Mark Wahlberg can pull off the cigar. I don't think he can pull off saying "goddamn" in any particular way. I don't see that coming together. But maybe, I mean, dude was Nathan Drake back in 2006 or whenever the initial Uncharted movie got penciled. And that was sort of a running theory that the only reason he's still there is because his agent was like, well, you've got to give us something. Like, you've waited so long, Sony, to put this together. And the assumption being that he's still stuck on the project because we've aged so much over the years that he's now attached to Sully. But yeah, Josh, is there any saving? Do you line up with Mr. Benroy's thoughts? Is there a crossover of how Mark Wahlberg could possibly be Sully?
No, I mean, I'm not, in terms of, Mark Wahlberg performances, I'm not a huge fan. He's never really done anything for me in the movies he's been in, although I do have a soft spot for Pain and Gain, just like Ben Roy. But when it comes to like this character and this version of the character, I do sort of agree with you that I'm sure he will get the tash by the end. I'm sure he'll put on this Hawaiian shirt or whatever. And I do love the bit of trivia that, this film has been in production hell for so long that he was Nathan Drake. Now he's the old wise mentor. However, while I do have a lot of reservations for Mark Wahlberg as this character, I actually am looking forward to Tom Holland as Nathan Drake. Like, I know a lot of people just don't want a young Nathan Drake in this movie. They want, Nathan Fillion as someone like that to be the Nathan Drake from the games, and that's totally valid. Me, I'm just kind of like, if they're going to do a movie, if they're going to do things different, like I'm here for that. That's okay. I have the games and I like Tom Holland and I like the stills that I've seen of him. I know this is also going to be very divisive and I don't think you think the same, Scott Tilford, but for me, I'm kind of like split down the middle. I mean, in between you both, on the one side, I'm like, this might have some potential. Tom Holland as Nathan Drake, it's not a terrible shout. On the other hand, you got Sully and Mark Wahlberg, which is definitely on the negative. So the scales are kind of balanced in this mediocrity kind of in this mediocre place at the moment.
It doesn't feel real. Like they put the screenshot out yesterday, and it just looks like they both got lost somewhere. It doesn't look like a movie. It doesn't look like if you showed anyone that screenshot, you wouldn't pick out. And there's no defining features in it at all. It's just two dudes in a room. Like Mark Wahlberg hasn't got the tash, and I know Tom Holland. As much as I love Tom Holland, he just looks like Tom Holland playing dress up. Like I think it's just because the age doesn't line up for me. And you already had that Nathan Drake, Nathan Fillion fan film from 2018 or whatever it was when he put that out, just sort of showing the world how it's done. And that was just such a reminder of like, okay, you could go down this route and it could be so much better. But obviously that would have to go with like an aged Drake or whatever. Ben, what's your thoughts on them doing Tom Holland for Nathan Drake?
I don't care about a young Nathan Drake. I'm just going to say I don't care. I would have wanted like something more in line with the films. Like it doesn't have to be exactly the same thing, but I mean, like I'll just watch young Indiana Jones instead and just end my life there, sort of thing. It's just
I never watched that, to be honest, for the same reason. I don't know. In general, I just. Are you all right, mate? Has just been a bit of a morning before
I've just been thinking about the Jack and Daxter series and just been upset today. But I generally gravitate towards like older characters. Like so, whenever you have a film and it's like got like a child character, and for a lot of them, not all of them, like someone like Newt in Aliens is great. But I'm just like, ugh. And then Tom Holland's not even a child, but then I can only see Spider-Man in him. So I need to
he does look about 12.
I need him to. I'll watch it because it's an Uncharted movie. I need to have it lifted out. I might watch this before I play Uncharted 3. Still not play Uncharted 3, so we'll see. But I've told you my weird history on Uncharted, right?
You might have done. It can't be weirder than you completely discounting Jack and Daxter. But
Jack and Daxter's a dead franchise, but I played 2, 4, then 1, then Lost Legacy, but I've not played 3 yet. So I've just
2,
jumped around the time.
1 Lost Legacy, and then 3. Throw it all together.
Saving 3 for a rainy day. And it's raining all the time at the moment.
It is. It's a rainy year, to be honest. In terms of the movie itself, though, like, what do you guys expect from an Uncharted movie? Like, obviously they're not going down the costume first route. They're not doing a Mortal Kombat, let's say. They're going to be doing something where maybe their characters will get their iconic looks over time. We know that obviously Nate will eventually.
How old is he going to be?
Well, they just said that. Sorry, they just said they're doing the young Nathan's, like the young Drake story, which is the Uncharted 3 story, but he's way younger in Uncharted 3. And Sully is almost what Tom Holland is now in the game. Like he's sort of meeting up with a sort of late teens, mid-teens Nathan Drake on the streets kind of thing, and taking him out of like a life of being another Aladdin to sort of take him under his wing.
Looks like the age like he was in Uncharted 4, like with the flashback there, just a bit after that. Like so.
What was like the Nathan Fillion stuff? If they'd led with Nathan Fillion, like I mean, obviously years ago it would have been younger and stuff. But if they did a Nathan Fillion Uncharted now, you could absolutely do the retired explorer goes on one more mission thing. But what do you guys think?
Let's talk about the flashback. Sorry, when he's with his brother in the is it?
Oh yeah.
I can't even think of the name of the place where they are. But is it just going to be them on the streets, him on the streets with his brother, or wherever, and then just being a scallywag? Because he's not going to be in school, is he? Like, there's not Mary Jane over there, sort of thing. I just can't stop thinking out Spider-Man.
Well, I guess I wonder if they're going to do, like, if they're doing the young Drake stuff, then I guess you do the origin of him finding the ring in Sic Parvis Magna and all the, like, the reason he becomes Nathan Drake. You stay away from the name reveal, because I guess that comes in maybe a sequel or something. But yeah, I guess overall, though, like, in terms of them doing an Uncharted movie, like, what do you guys expect from an Uncharted movie if it's not the look from the games? And, like, maybe it's not even, like, the catchphrases. Like, I don't know, Tom Holland pulling off an oh crap or whatever. It has to be something else. But then, to me, it's going to go down the route of, like, National Treasure, and it'll just be another throwaway, like, half Indiana Jones type thing.
Yeah, I think it will be kind of that. But I do think it could have some promise, as a big daft blockbuster. If they hit like, the bombastic set pieces from the games, and I don't mean like literally transfer the ones that are in the games over to here, but I mean capture the same sense of grandiosity, capture the same sense of adventure, then I think you could pull off at least a good popcorn like film. I don't think it's going to be, some kind of gritty drama or an award-winning movie, but I think it could work as, a brainless popcorn flick. I think that could be easily translated over, especially with the cast that you have at the moment, and that might be fine. I want to see if they kind of like dig into the characters a bit more if this franchise kicks off. Because you can imagine if you've got Tom Holland at this stage, you're going to follow him through a bunch of adventures, and that's why they're not doing the one last job retired Drake that they could have jumped into if they were adapting Uncharted 4. You know,
it's definitely the beginning of the timeline.
Yeah, you imagine they've got like big plans for the series to go, 3, 4, 5 movies, probably have a Sully spin-off, have all of this, other wider stuff. So in the first one, I think it will be just like you said, establishing what Drake is, the path that he's going to go on. I don't think we'll get anything about Sam. We might get a hint of Sam, like Nathan Drake's brother, but I don't think we'll actually see him in the flesh. It might detract too much, but I feel like, for as Sony wants to do as a movie making company, I think they'll try to build some kind of universe, some kind of
Uncharted universe
that they can spin things off.
The amount of people that compared Cutter from Uncharted 3 to Jason Statham, like maybe that can come full circle or something. One thing I was going to say is like if you think about like the reason that Uncharted mattered, like back in sort of 2006, 2007, was the big set piece interaction stuff. It was the big collapsible set pieces. Oh my god, you're still playing this whole level as it's all collapsing and things like that. If they directly carry that across, we've seen so much over the top like bombast and in blockbusters in Hollywood where everything just looks like a big CG mess. How do you think they can like bring across the appeal of Uncharted? Because for me, it would be actually inverting it and doing a lot of really impressive stunt work and practical effects and like lots of physical stuff where you can't believe that they actually put actors through that. I think if they go down the route of everything's falling apart and your character, like almost like the Rock San Andreas movie, where someone's just alive in amongst a big CG mess, to me that would, like, they need to do something more than just tick all those boxes.
Yeah, I think you need some kind of, physicality to it. I don't think they ever would because, there's only Tom Cruise who likes to do this and no other studio
it would be
likes to
stunt
support
doubles,
it.
yeah.
But I would love it if they did like a Mission Impossible style thing where they're like, right, we want to do as much in camera as possible. We want things to look at least a little bit authentic while retaining an over the top sensibility. If they manage to blend that with like the CGI spectacle, I think they could do something interesting. But probably it's going to be, like you said, some kind of CGI mess where it's like, okay, that's just going as big as you possibly can. And they might be able to do that well, but if they can hit some kind of balance between the two, like you said, then for me, I think it hopefully will be at least enjoyable to watch and not just a complete like bore fest. That's the worst thing an Uncharted movie could be for me. Like you can tear up the mythology, you can completely ruin the characters. That's at least doing something. If you're boring, there's no point. Just do literally anything else.
That's the biggest question mark for me is like the chemistry between Holland and Wahlberg. I guess on paper, I just don't see it. I don't see them two cracking on in the way that Nathan Drake and Sully do. But if that's that's the core. A lot of the some of the Uncharted charm is from them, because we haven't even talked about whether Chloe and Elena are even in this or anything, or if they've been cast or anything. Maybe I've missed it if they have been cast. But I think it's going to be a lot of chemistry between the two of them, and that's the thing that, like I said, I'm just curious whether that even comes together. Ben, what's your thoughts on the whole CG versus practical and how to even make Uncharted feel like Uncharted in a movie?
It'll be, I think it'll probably be more set akin to what the Tomb Raider movie we got like a few years ago, where it'll be them walking around the woods for a bit, then walking around in an old building, and then they'll go for, and hopefully they swing around on some vines like Indy did in Indiana Jones 4, the film that doesn't exist, with a bunch of monkeys, and have a good time. But it would just be a blend, wouldn't it? Like these actors, most of them are, as Josh said, aren't allowed to do their own stunts anymore. And it's your Tom Cruise, almost said Tom Jones, who just demands that they want to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I'd imagine like stunt doubles and stuff. I'm just thinking like, what is the Uncharted footprint if it's not entirely through Nolan North?
I have a question. I have a question for you both. Do you think they'll bring in the supernatural aspects? And if they do, how heavy will they push them? Are we going to get an Uncharted that's just completely not grounded? You can still have, like I said, your big, daft, superhuman spectacles, but, that's kind of based in real life or reality or whatever. Or are they going to be like, nope, there's just, here are the monsters. There are monsters now. This is the full focus of the movie.
Uncharted 3 has that massive, I guess it's spoilers for Benro because he hasn't played through it, not to be too detailed about it, but Uncharted 3 has that character that is barely, there's like super, there's very supernatural, and but even by the end, you don't know how they're able to get from A to B. And so if they're going to do the entire of Uncharted 3 storyline, then maybe you do the Sully fake out death stuff as well. But I kind of, I don't know, that stuff was so divisive in Uncharted 1 and 2, especially in 2, but at the same time, I could see them ending a trailer on some character saying, that they're investigating a certain area or a tomb or whatever, and all of a sudden it's like you hear the rumble in the darkness, and then they cut, and it's just Uncharted. And that would make sense. Like, a mainstream audience is going to love zombies, crazy giant blue, whatever they were at the end of Uncharted.
Yetis, give me some blue Yetis, or
give me some Yetis. Give me the mask reveal from Uncharted 2. Like, I mean, they could do stuff like that. I guess, it's, I don't know, man. It's kind of all up for grabs, but it would be a hell of a genre split.
Just give me more blue Yetis, and just get some blue milk in there as well. And what else can we have blue? That blue skies, that nice clear blue seas, a blue ice pop, just everything blue, and then it'll be perfect. I mean, like, they went supernatural with the Tomb Raider film, right? And I think they'll just have that little bit of tinge, and then there was like mystical, like scary.
Do you mean Angelina Jolie or the
the newest one? So it went a bit supernatural, like it was like mystical acid gas or something, wasn't it? And everyone,
they had like traps in the tombs,
because I thought she was meant to be a zombie, and then she wasn't. But blur the line. I don't mind if they have some blue guys. It's always some blue.
It depends how it's done. I guess in the game, like, you were going up against these like weird little mini bosses, and then you had like Lazarevich getting all powered up and stuff. And I don't know. It's the two different ways to do it, because the last time like a mainstream big blockbuster took that swerve was maybe Indy 4, going like, oh, aliens are real at the end of it, and that's so.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I do have some faith in it in a way, because this is the first movie, even though it was in development way before this was a thing, but it's the first movie by like PlayStation Productions. They set up this movie production team, and then they're making Uncharted. I think it's a co-production with the Last of Us HBO show as well. I might be wrong about that, but I think that's true. So they have a more vested interest and a closer connection to the game series than it ever had at any other point in its production. So you would hope that this being the first film that's going to reflect that brand, they'd want to do it justice. They want it to be a hit. And most importantly, they'd want, the fans of the franchise to feel like, well, you've given us this, we like it, we trust you to develop these games going forward. Maybe there's too much baggage attached to it to completely pull it off and have this kind of clean break, but hopefully the influence is felt, overall.
Because it's a weird, like, we're in a weird time where I don't know what your guys' like general assumption is, because we talked about this before in terms of like what can a movie bring to an IP that a game hasn't already ticked the box of. And I think that now, because that games are so much more cinematic or than they were, and because games are capable of all that stuff, and you're playing it, it's kind of like that whole idea of movies being the uppermost echelon of a given IP or a given realization of entertainment. I feel like that's changed so much, and to me, it's like this is almost like it's almost like an addendum to the main games, as opposed to like in years gone by or decades gone by, it was like, oh my god, it's getting a movie, it's finally being recognized, like it's going to be this thing, and that just for me is completely inverted. Do you guys, Benroy, do you still feel that way, or does it feel like can this be the thing that actually like cements why Uncharted needs to matter to a wider audience?
Uncharted needs to matter to a wider audience because every other division of Sony doesn't make that much money, I guess. I feel that's why they're making the big push. But like with movies, like the only ones I've really ever cared about is like Colin Salmon's Resident Evil, and that's because I like zombie movies as well. And then like Doom 2005 was pretty much that was they're pretty much the exact same. If you look at them, they're almost the exact same movie. Doom 2005 is alright, it's fun. But then like any of you see Doom Annihilation and just want to.
Well, you said you were going to watch it, and then you were like, "Don't, not even like for fun."
It's
the worst.
It hurts so much, man. I mean, the budgets between this and the Uncharted movie are not comparable, right? But I don't mind it. I don't mind seeing more of my thing, and also like that I enjoy. And again, like the argument of The Last of Us, like, well, yeah, The Last of Us is basically a film anyway. It's an interactive movie, blah blah blah. But then, like, there are millions, if not billions of people. I mean, billions of people probably won't watch it, but that will never touch the Last of Us game or the Uncharted games. So put it over there and see if they like it over there. I do believe that the shift games, it's weird because games do want to be cinematic, right? And I want cinematic games, but at the same time, I don't feel like they're clawing at Hollywood anymore for the most part, because they make more money than Hollywood and everything combined, right? So
well, that's the thing. I think that like in the gaming industry now, we've actually moved away from a lot of that stuff, where it's just like Sony obviously prioritizing the big like single player cinematic adventure stuff, which is totally fine. Like some of my favorite games of all time. But I feel like the recent industry has moved away from that quite a lot, where we've kind of gone back to arcade based stuff. Like you have Sony and the big first party PlayStation stuff, but so many third party companies are just doing like arcade mentalities or monetization, like long form monetization. The idea of focusing on the gameplay and not necessarily the cinematics, which just means that Uncharted or any video game movie that is kind of old school cinematic flair or whatever lands in a different space in terms of the audience that they're bringing in. But at the same time, there is a way to do it. Speaking of like Benroy, you mentioned the Doom movies and stuff. Josh, do you have any video game movies that are actually recommendable? Because I feel like for the longest time it was always the video game curse. But I'm loving Detective Pikachu. You can throw out whatever you want.
I'm nothing is genuinely as good as that. But I'm gonna obviously, when this question gets brought up, I'm going to step on Benroy's toes and just recommend all of the Resident Evil movies except the last one. And I'm talking live action here, none of those animated ones, the ones that might actually be genuinely good. I think the first Resident Evil movie, the Paul W.S. Anderson one, is a fun movie. The second one's daft. The third one's quite good. The fourth one's really boring. The fifth one's fun. The sixth one is one of the worst movies I've ever seen.
Which is the 3D one? Is that the seventh one?
The fourth one.
Good.
The fourth one.
Afterlife is the one in the shower where they're running through and killing the X-Cure.
Do you think, because obviously it's game by game, it's franchise by franchise, was that all that we needed from Resident Evil? Because they do have a new TV show, a new movie coming up, and I don't know if they're gonna. Do you think they're gonna go down the same route? Like, is that just what Resident Evil is at this point? Like you said, the anime is ridiculously over the top at this point.
I don't think so. I think it will be over the top to an extent, but the fact that the Resident Evil movies had such little, respect for the source material or the characters. You can do Resident Evil movies in a similar style if you do want to make it action focused, but you have like all of the games now to pull from in the upcoming movie. I think it's called Welcome to Raccoon City or something. Like that's actually pulling the characters from the games in, which in itself is a win and an improvement on what we got before from a story perspective, at least. So I think you can, be a bit mad, but also you can actually do the games justice this time, which is nice.
Yeah, I mean the I don't even know what Sextopoly. I don't even know what the name of it is. This is just to get Mila Jovovich over, and it's just Paul W.S. Anderson. Like, I need to make sure my wife and the star of this movie looks great. But it's like, do you ever realize that when he left Mortal Kombat for Event Horizon, and then obviously Annihilation came out, and it was something worse than the fate of going to hell. He vowed never to leave a franchise again. That's why he stuck with Resident Evil all that time for what felt like 15 years or something.
Well, that was the thing with Monster Hunter as well, because he was like, everyone in Hollywood was annoyed when they found out I owned the Monster Hunter IP, and then you see the Monster Hunter movie, and I mean, when I finally get to watch that in June when it comes out here, like I can't wait, because I want to see if this husband and wife team is going to redeem themselves, or if it might be something totally trash and nothing to do with the franchise and probably rancid. But we'll have to wait and see to that. But yeah, the Resident Evil, it's weird with Resident Evil because you got the canon stuff, the anime, which I like. I mean, I like everything Resident Evil to a point. I like 6, like Josh at some point. So I'm on board with 6 now. You play 6 in 2021. That thing is okay.
These Resident Evil films are just fun to be like some zombies every now and then and stupid stunts. Like, I like just the action, the horror, schlocky stuff, and I can't really recommend any other video game movie that I can think of. Probably apart from, I'll watch Doom every now and then. Why not?
Mine would be Silent Hill. Detective Pikachu, I genuinely think
Silent
is brilliant.
Hill.
But the end of Detective Pikachu loses its damn mind. It's a really cool cyberpunky Blade Runner-y murder mystery thing with Pokemon before then, and then it's at the very end it just turns into a big old mess. But and Sonic was all right, I guess, kinda like a 5 out of 6 out of 10, maybe.
Can we pause this podcast because Josh hasn't mentioned a film he watched recently, so I'm waiting for Josh to bring that film up.
Interesting.
He's watched recently the video game film that he's watched that he said, you know what, it's actually quite okay. It's got one Hoskins in it that I'm waiting to hear. This seems like a perfect time to talk about.
God. Yeah.
Right. My God. Here we go.
When you told us you'd done this, I can't believe you've done this.
Want to commend Ben Roy for knowing more about my life than even I do. He knows more about my video game habits, more about my watching habits than even I do. But yes, I can't believe I've just let this slip, because earlier last week, my friends, I watched for the very first time the Super Mario Brothers movie. And you know what? It's good. It's really good. It's a lot of fun. It doesn't have anything to do with Mario as a character or a concept or even a thought in someone's brain, but it is completely daft in a way that things just aren't now. You've got Bob Hoskins as Mario, and he's like this Brooklyn Italian plumber, and he's trying to like shag the lasses, and he's kind of a bit gross, and it's you know, when I was growing up.
What made you say it's good? Is it just because it feels retroactively fresh in a world of corporate mandated synthetic toss?
That's exactly it. You know, it took a lot of flack when I was growing up. A lot of people that I watched online were calling it like one of the worst movies ever, and pointing out that it doesn't follow the video games. And yeah, it doesn't follow the video games. But what it replaces that with is just this like madcap, dystopian, dark future that's trying to be part Tim Burton's Batman, part Willy Wonka, part sex comedy. And it's just something that would never get made now. But on top of it just being like quite inventive, I do genuinely think it's quite funny. Bob Hoskins as Mario is funny. Like, he's really funny in that role. And you've got just like total madness on display. It was never boring. And I would take something as bad but ambitious as that over something that's just kind of dull, like Doom 2005, which I know Ben Roy likes, but for me is just...
It's got The Rock in it, so it's fine, yeah.
Yeah, the first person bit, it's just like the games. What you're saying is the Uncharted movie does have a hope that if Mario Brothers can steer so far in the opposite direction, it can come back around again and work. There is a way to resurrect it.
Exactly what I'm saying. What I'm saying is Uncharted needs to take a leaf out of Super Mario Brothers, the movies, the book, their book, and then it can succeed. It could have a good time.
I think that's what I'm like as well. It just needs to go. If it's going to go off the game, it's going to go so far off the game that it's mental. I've not watched the Mario Brothers film since it was on VHS. I've seen it because Mario Brothers was like a big part of me growing up, but I've not seen it since then on like a blockbuster VHS. But I might watch it again because you've spurred this into, you put that seed into me. But I just worry. Winding down. I just want you to know that this is the most successful video game movie franchise known to man. The Resident Evil films.
Holding up a copy of the Resident Evil Extinction.
Final chapter sealed because I've only ever rented it, and I want this to be sealed. So in 1,000 years, when we go into the galaxy and find like the Geth and the Protheans and all that they will hand this to them, and this will tell the Reapers to bugger off because this is how we save the galaxy.
Trigger the galactic genocide, but it depends how it goes. I do want to quickly mention Mortal Kombat in terms of just shared universe stuff. That whole first movie is just a setup for the movies to come. Thought it completely wasted all of its potential. We could potentially do another podcast on that going forward. I did want to run down some of the stuff that's coming up going forward though, because through a mix of like rumored stuff. I mean, Dave Bautista is adamant about doing the Gears of War movie, so it seems like we will get him as Marcus Phoenix going forward at some point. I'm going to run down some of these things, and you guys can just give me general reactions in terms of like, can this be good in film form, or what are they doing? First up, Gears of War with Marcus Phoenix, with Mr. Bautista.
Yes, that'd be brilliant. And also, he replied to me on Twitter like the other month, 2 months ago, saying like, "Nah, it's not gonna. It's dead now." But then like, it's not dead, so I don't know.
Ben Roy. It's not gonna. I mean, apparently after he did one of the interviews during Army of the Dead's press run, he was asked about the movie, and he said, "No, I want to talk about Gears of War," and he steered it back to Gears of War, and he was like, "No, I want to do this movie. They won't let me." So Gears of War with Dave Bautista could be awesome. Next up, the Metal Gear Solid movie, directed by Jordan Vogt-Roberts, apparently co-written or at least executively produced by Hideo Kojima, with Jordan Vogt-Roberts saying that so many video game movies get it wrong and that you have to understand what a movie can bring to the table. Yes or no on anything Metal Gear related working in film form?
I sincerely don't think it can work. Will I watch it day one? Yes, because I've been looking forward to a film adaptation of that. And I think Oscar Isaac is really cool. And I really liked Kong Skull Island. So that can't be boring. Like, Metal Gear Solid as a movie cannot physically in this world become something that is boring. It's not. It's going to be interesting, even if it's bad. So
if they embrace the style of cinematography that's in the new Dynasty Warriors movie, where it's just lots of crazy anime style stuff, but it is still live action, I think you could do it. But that might make it more like Metal Gear Twin Snakes. Next thing is Borderlands.
I didn't get to say my piece on that film. I was waiting for
go
that.
on then.
I'll say, unless that film doesn't have him going to heat up a card and cool down a card, I don't want to watch it.
That's going to be the set piece towards the end. Next, the big thing that has a lot of pretty much A-list talent attached is the Borderlands movie, which I'm not a Borderlandsman, so I don't. Does this strike you as a positive life choice?
I mean, yeah, kind
Kevin
of.
Hart,
like there's
whoever else.
too much talent attached to it for it to be uninteresting. And Eli Roth as the director is a fascinating choice. It's not Borderlands as an IP isn't something that I would, say is ripe immediately for a movie adaptation. But with that cast, with that director, I think there's a lot of, push behind it. They could do something interesting with it. So that's a yes for me until I'm inevitably proven wrong.
The last time, the one time I tried the Borderlands was the last time I committed to saying I loved a human, and that was towards the end of our relationship. I didn't enjoy the Borderlands experience.
I love that.
Maybe that's got something to do with it.
Going forward.
Yeah. So no, not. I mean, I'll probably watch it because I'm awake at 2 a.m. and there's wine to finish. So why not? Yeah.
So very quickly for the last three, the Division movie that's coming with Jake Gyllenhaal and Jessica Chastain, been in production since 2016. Yeah, sure. It feels like it'll be one of those Amazon original movies. Like I don't know how you can get it to be anything other than that. Josh, quick thoughts on the Division?
No. The fact that there's been like no updates on that thing in like not 3 years doesn't bode well. Even though I do like Jake Gyllenhaal a lot.
There's been nothing in 5 years. There's been nothing since the initial teaser, as far as I know. Like they got attached to it, and that was it. Like I don't even know. I mentioned Resident Evil before. J.J. Abrams is doing a Portal movie, which apparently has been in the works for a bunch of years. He's recently just did a little interview where he said it is still coming up. Portal movie, is that even doable in a film?
Sure. Yeah. I don't know.
Film's coming up as well at some point.
Meh, really. Like I'd rather just play another Portal and Tetris film, just get in the bin.
A little bit. Last thing is the Last of Us TV show. Obviously HBO. Neil Druckmann's helping out write it. Dude from Chernobyl's doing it, whose name I forget. Mr. Chernobyl. Current thoughts on the Last of Us TV show.
Big yes. I search for this thing like every week just to see if there's any update on it because I'm genuinely excited for it. And I hope this is the one that like bucks the trend and is like, no, these things, they're not just going to be good adaptations. Hopefully it can be better than that. It can get like awards recognition. It can be really deep, really interesting, discussed in the same way that you discuss Breaking Bad, Game of Thrones, whatever. I know that's a lot of expectation to heap on it, but that's the old hope. Castlevania as well, yeah.
It's got the highest budget for a HBO pilot of all time, so you've got to imagine they're putting all they can into it. Neil stopped the movies from happening because they were going away from what he wanted. So yeah, I've got hope. I'm always going to watch it. Like love The Last of Us, but don't need it, but I will watch it and I will probably really enjoy it. So
yeah, it's promising. The rundown of the amount of stuff that is coming out from Gears to Metal Gear, Borderlands, Resident Evil, Portal, Last of Us, The Division, and plus the likes that's coming out soon, like Uncharted. Like video games are moving into film a hell of a lot more than they ever did before. And I guess it's just we'll just see. We'll case by case it going forward. But one of the most talked about ones right now is obviously the Uncharted stuff. So let us know what you think down in the comments below if you're on the video side of things, or come find us on social media if you're listening along on the audio platforms. For now, this has been the WhatCulture Gaming Podcast, though. I've been your host, Scott Tilford, joined by Ben Roy Turner.
According to this, the future is blue.
It's true.
Blue right here.
And also, Josh Brown.
Give Super Mario Brothers the movie another chance 2021. That's what I'm holding my little plumber hat on. That's what I'm hanging it on.
Your homework for next week is to watch the Super Mario Brothers movie, and we'll catch you then. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Evil never dies.